everyone, and welcome to Fridays Live at this time noon rather than 5. This week I want to cover a topic called anchor points. And an anchor point is anything that will collect or grab your attention. And we're going to use this lovely market scene in L'Île-sur-le-Sorgue in Provence. There's a lot going on here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crop it into a horizontal composition, and I think you'll be able to see it a little better. So the thing about anchor points is that, like the witches in the Wizard of Oz, there are good anchor points and there are bad anchor points. And there are cats coming through. Ginger, just a moment. I'm going to put Ginger out. He wants out of the house. Sorry about that. So, good anchor points and bad anchor points. A good anchor point functions as an accent. Hi, Michael. Or a center of interest. A bad anchor point is something that snags your eye or arrests it and keeps it in a place or drags it to a place in the composition that you don't want. So one of the differences I made is I didn't want too much of that sky, just being this big band there, and then this big band here, and then two bands there. So that's just a little too much horizontality, not to mention all the business going on in there. So this, I hope, simplifies it and brings us in. Now, a positive anchor point, I think, is this figure with the red striped bag. The buildings, the trees, they all provide a background. Some of the things that perhaps cause a problem are, other than the too much sky and too much street, is this window of this van. It kind of... There's not enough there to tell us that it's a van because the door is slit open and there's merchandise in there. So I'm looking at that and I'll say, what if we had the door slid shut? And we've got a lovely diagonal shadow being cast from, I guess, the umbrella onto the truck. And I think we could show a little more of the truck and we'd have a diagonal that's kind of moving us towards that girl with the lovely red striped bag. And then we could also silhouette this figure. And what else could we do? We've got a lot of stuff here, these baskets. We could simplify them. We might be able to break up all this business in here by kind of creating it as a silhouette rather than all these individual bags. Maybe there is perhaps a little bit of confusion as to what's going on in here. There's some umbrellas which are actually across the river there, and I might bring those umbrellas down and show them and then silhouette the stuff that's there more interestingly. I should explain maybe the layout of the place. L'Île-sur-le-Sorgue, it means the island on the Sorgue. It's the river comes along and it splits, and there's the Sorgue River, and then there's an island in there, and most of the town is there. And between that and that is that river. This is another view from the same place. There's lovely, beautiful, clear water, and you see these underwater grasses growing under there. and it's just a spectacular little town. They apparently at one time had mills, water wheels. We're probably looking straight across to that area from where we're doing our image. And, oh, just a beautiful place. Here it is in the evening. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous place. So, let's begin with the drawing here. Another thing I want to do is, because the river does kind of curve, it may not be apparent on this building. There's an oddity because this face of the building is like that, and this face of the building is a bit tilted. That's why you're seeing some stuff up here. I'm just going to simplify it and make it as if it were flat, some of the buildings further down here. So first I'm going to start with the simple shapes. I'm going to draw these a little. I want the main shape. I want to get a big shape before I make a final shape. Very important. Look at this lovely, ever so slight diagonal. I think that helps out when you have a fundamentally horizontal composition. That was a bit of good news, but I won't share it. So, I want to get where is everything. Then that's slanting. This is kind of up, down, in and out. That's a good thing. This is going to be relatively level. And the thing I want to say is, there more space here or more space there? Gosh, they're about equal. So we'll try to mitigate that by doing some asymmetry. This goes all that way, but the tree breaks it. This goes all that way, but the planter breaks it. This comes only this far. So things like that we can work with. So I'm just going to very, very simply, I'm going to darken these marks up for you, don't worry. Then there are the umbrellas across the river. Well, there's a lovely awning from a restaurant on the other side of the river. I'm going to start making the divisions for these buildings. I'm not doing this contour so much yet. I want to find what are my general proportions. So I've got a wide, narrow, wide, and then a lower roof here. So now let's start darkening this up. And you probably can't see a darn thing yet. I have a level area, well, maybe not exactly level. They're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful old terracotta roofs. Now it staggers up to this one. I guess I could make that wider, couldn't I? Because it goes across in. This one comes down. There's something of a pitched roof over here, and an odd shaped business over here with that lovely antenna, which I find to be very helpful. There's a chimney here. very accretive. It looks like things were built and then built on top of that, and so on. Another chimney pot over here. Sort of thing it's probably best painted rather than drawn. Oh, that should be a bit of an angle. Things disappearing behind other things. Now, windows. Fenestration. Pair there. Some windows here, a little higher. I like the fact that this one disappears a bit behind the awnings or umbrellas. A lot of this tree is going to cover that, so there's not much going on there. I'm going to start indicating some of this awning action. Hooray for the curvy lines, for the scalloped lines. Second window below that. Very deeply recessed. Behind this tree, there's another pair of windows, so I'm just going to indicate them and paint over them. Okay. At the street level. Now, the tables we want to be somewhat level. Now, I'm going to try and just simply indicate with very shallow triangles the ones across the street. There's a kind of a baluster type arrangement. Most of that I think I might paint and then draw. Thank you, Michael. I really do think I want to include that satellite dish. I think it's so kind of interesting to see these lovely ancient buildings, and that truck. I want to make sure it's a little bit these vans they have there are very distinctive. And now that figure, I'm going to very roughly draw her. I'm going to get closer she's almost at this break between these two umbrellas. I don't want her dead center. I think I might take her a little bit to this side. Head about so big, body about so big. The bag kind of is I hesitate to say that I'm almost into the bag more than I am her. So I'm going to darken these things up. How much of her body comes behind the bag? Where does it fall? It has to obey a human shape. In other words, I don't want her feet coming out behind where her body actually would be. It's a biggish bag, isn't it? So I think I can... So I'm opening up a little more space between the van and her, which means I'm going to bring the road or the sidewalk down to here. And then there's going to be miscellaneous, appears to have been a stall selling handbags, that kind of thing. That. Clean that up a bit. We know this is going to be one of the key things about this these trees is that they're providing an organic shape in the midst of all this architecture and geometry. So let's clean up the hat a bit. Be very careful not to paint over that. Her arm. White hat, so I can use the lovely contrast that provides. These have shutters, which will typically come a little bit below the sill. First floor windows are taller, but the same width. Now, all of this, there's a second figure here. I'm going to put her in. She had a long dress. and a hijab. And then there was another figure back here that again I'm going to just treat as a silhouette. There's some boxes here. And when I say anchor points, I need to take her down dress a little further, it looks like. There's more dress under there. That space in there. I don't want, hi Charles, I don't want to make this thing here occur right in the middle. So I need to move it this way or this way, and I think I want to bring it closer to my figure. Again, something that would function as an anchor, the combined figure and basket of stuff. Probably not a good idea. I'm going to have some hanging things in there. And the bag needs to be adjusted. She looks like she's carrying too much. The hat. Be very careful not to. That window of that van, and then I'm going to paint the shadow. I will put the planter in, and then that olive tree is going to come out of there. So there's going to be a lot of stuff which is not really going to be apparent until I go ahead and paint it. And I think I want to stop the drawing there. Yeah, I think you're right, Jane. Well, there seems to be junk in it. So we will see. But we want to suggest that, shopping at this open air market that they would have a couple times a week. And where do I want to go first? Light to dark, the usual process. I think I'm going to lay in that Naples yellow, which I'm going to make a runny mix of yellow ochre and a little bit of cad orange. Maybe some of just cad yellow too. I'm going to sort of overstate it. Yeah, I'm going to overstate it. Bring it down to the umbrellas. Continue it through here. Probably will be stuff covering it up. Now, that in a bit of water, quite a bit of water. I want it much paler. Let's make it a little more sienna-ish too. I don't worry about getting into the interior portions of the window. And even lighter still, needing more water, for the, and anything that's darker, I'll go ahead and hit. This up here, I'm just going to have some lavender with a lot of water for a kind of a gray. Up here, a little bit there, a little bit in there, perhaps in here too. Now the fronts of the umbrellas, a little bit of very, very, very pale blue and maybe some of that yellow oak. Well, that's kind of greenish, isn't it? Let's get some lavender. And the truck I'm going to leave white. Let's just use that same stuff for the window of the windscreen of the truck for the time being. The umbrellas across the street, I'm going to skip them and I'm going to try to make them, well, let's get some more of that zippy yellow and bring that in underneath here. Going to leave, well, parts of that tablecloth on the thing I'm going to need to leave whitish. Parts of it I'm going to use a bluish kind of mix. Let's do all of it. It'll probably be darker later. I like the rake. Go ahead and get that figure. All of this back here, all of this, well, not yet that. Shadow cast by it. Underneath, she's dark. That's all going to be darker. Simplification, simplification, John. Don't get too... Now, the street. I want sienna into that. Maybe a little bit of neutral tint or something. A warm, very neutral kind of color. It may look dark now, but I just need to get this stuff such that the white sticks out of it, or enough contrast for that. Let's put a little more sienna and neutral tint into that, just to break it up. Okay, the sky. That's going to be some basic cerulean or cobalt. Let's get some clean here. Load it with water, get a bit of cerulean. It's got to run. It's got to be runny, but not super runny like we were doing up to this point. Maybe a little cobalt too. The roof is not quite as dark, so I do have to be careful with it. And I got to miss my Oh, maybe I shouldn't have put that satellite dish in there. I'm getting a bead going. Chimney should be a bit darker. And I may have to tilt the board. By the way, we're using 140-pound Hanamula cold press. So I am going to tip the board the other way just for a moment while I rinse the brush. And I think we may be at the stage where we're going to have to dry things. I'm going to pull some of that down into the tree so it's not such a clean break. This I'm going to dry. Doesn't look like anything now. We're at the holy mess stage. So, this is where we have to have faith. I'm going to mute so you don't have to listen to this. Okay. Now, the roofs. And I think I need a smaller, stiffer brush. I'm going to switch to the Oriental. It's a kind of a very weathered terracotta, sort of brownish, grayish. Get some burnt sienna and put it in that ultramarine. Maybe a little bit of cad red. Ah, what the heck. I'm gonna make it orangey. Like it was a little newer. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to variegate it a bit. I'm going to put a little more of the blue, some blue in it, so it's not all exactly the same, and particularly this part. I want to keep that wet edge, that bottom edge there wet. And I'm going to do a more orangey sienna version over here, just so it's not all the same. There as well, maybe just tuck a bit in this spot or that spot. Here comes the fun part. Looks like a mess now, I know. Let's get that other roof in here. Sort of neutral. Don't want to draw much attention there. While this edge is wet, I'm going to get some ultramarine with a little bit of alizarin to make it purplish. And I'm going to paint the what would you call it, the eave shadows underneath. And I want it to melt into now this shadow is not going to come down as far as this shadow because this building is recessed. But the thing that I'm trying, let's pull the window down as well. The thing that I'm trying to get is a soft melt underneath the eave. Let's make that one, it should be a little bit different because this color is different, right? So pull it across. Take it to where it goes. There'll be some there too. The windows, down to the windows, and a little bit under the shutters. Under the sill. Under the sill, under the sill. It's probably going to get covered. Up here, yeah, whole thing basically. Now, while that's, I'm going to stab into my burnt sienna. So this is going to be relatively slow moving paint. And again, right at this edge, touch just a bit to try and I want thicker and less paint on this brush. I want to get a warm kind of what would you call it? General suggestion of reflected light underneath that eave shadow. And maybe I'll squeeze all the water out of the brush, get some of that, and actually even pull it in on these windows just to get a bit of difference in the windows. It's critical that windows appear a little different from one window to the next. Now how about, we're going to be working our, oh, you know what, I need a good wide cast shadow underneath that one. And it appears there might actually be something under there too. We'll see. This window and that window, oh my goodness, we need, boy, we got a couple of windows here we got to get. I don't want to make them too ultramarine, sienna. While that's semi-damp, I can do that. So you notice that this line follows that shadow line almost. because the window is slightly recessed. So we don't want to slice it all the way across. We want it to either jump down a little further, which I think is the case here, because the window is recessed. And maybe I will park a little more blue in that as well. Just to get a, you know, I don't want to make too big a deal of this because the big deal is down here, right? So don't get carried away, John. And bothering me, there's a hair coming off this guy. I gotta get him. There we go. Slight annoyance there. Perhaps in some of these areas I might just like a dark accent, and I might just dip here and there to make the edge look. All of this that I'm doing along these edges here is calculated to possibly make it look a little more ragged. So we get the sense of the terracotta tiles. I don't want to draw every last one, but I do want to suggest that they're there. Maybe get the corners of the windows a little darker or something. That sort of thing. And ooh, let's quit playing with that for now. What's an important thing we could do? The trees. It's a little wet here, a little wet. Yeah, I think I'm okay over here. So it's going to be it's a greenish biased blue, the Prussian. A little bit of the yellow ochre. Not a little bit, fair amount. I don't want a zippy green. I want a kind of sun-baked Provençal sort of green. Where it's thick, I'm going to, or by thick meaning that there's a lot of foliage there, I'm going to put there, and as the brush runs out, and I may have to just get some of the paint off, I'm going to pull out and make, even just get the yellow ochre, the smaller leaves. I'm going to take this one all the way to the top, kind of break up that band that's headed in this direction. So I'm just even going to, some more light getting up there. So a little more yellow in it. You could, this is a great place for a splatter. Always looks a little more leaf-like than what I'll come up with, mindful of the fact where the brush is pointing. Don't do it like this, you'll get birds. Now, I'm going to get most of the paint off that, and I'm going to dip right into a thick mix of Prussian and Cad Red. And I'm going to try to make these shadowed areas of the tree, which more or less is going to be, see, it needs to be thick so that it melts into the wet surface. I would say even thicker. One of the things I maybe don't mention that I should is the paint pocket. There are places where that paint is creamy and thick, and there are places where it's kind of runny, and I'm aware of that, and I know where I'm sticking my brush, but it may not always be apparent to everyone when I'm talking, or just to see it from here. So There's a thicker area, a thinner area. Just be aware where it's a little more liquid, where it's a little stiffer. And then you can get the paint consistency you need accordingly. It's one of those things that needs to be verbalized because it's not really apparent. Now, this tree, I want to mix some of that into that green that I already had because I don't want the exact same green. Maybe I'll get some yellow ochre in there. And since this is stiffer paint, you can see it's making a footprint like that. Then I can get a broken edge. I want the character of these trees to be a wee bit different. Give the brush a bad hair day so that you can get the little bits that stick out to create a organic shape. Now as I get down here, I'm going to go back into my stiff mix of Prussian and Cad red. I'm going to bring that dark shape. Sun is coming from a top down. It's midday. So you're going to want to be underneath your folded shapes. You're just not willy-nilly having them appear here and there. So I have to very carefully frame that umbrella. And then I'm going to bring it down into here, maybe with a little more red or a different blue. Yeah, that's the thing, a different blue. And the idea here is I want to frame her hat. So we're actually getting into our umbrellas and our business behind there. So let's put a little bit of water and some cobalt turquoise into that, or a side, take some of that and some cobalt turquoise. And let's get under here and start making some, again, frame her. Irregular organic shapes. I'm just going to get almost perfectly turquoise. Maybe leave some light things going on. So that we get the idea there's bags or stuff on top of this table. Let's leave some light spots that we could color a different. Boy, I'm gonna get, let's see, what would be good in there? How about some pure cobalt? Just tip that in there. Hi, Cousin Irene. Just to get a little variation in this area back here. Gonna rinse that, squeeze the water out, maybe even get a little bit of alizarin and touch in there too. Ooh, this, I need thicker. To touch in there and suggest that the merchandise is various colors. Now, back across the street, I do want to get into some like ultramarine. It's not as dark as this because it's going to be supposedly further away. Good couple of blocks. And with a river in between. See if I can leave some thin lines to suggest some railings or something of that sort. Now when I get down here, I'm going to go back to this thicker mix of the cad red and the Prussian blue. I'll make sure I don't I am going to need to tint that, the tablecloth there. I'm going to pre-paint the shadow underneath this planter, which is also these are all abstract shapes, very, very abstract shapes. A variety of unusual dirty blues, cool colors, purplish blues, brownish blues. You've got several reds here. I've got several blues here. I'm going to make a point of variegating them so that everything doesn't look quite the same. Now, as I get near her feet, I do need this area under here to be dark. So, ultramarine, probably too much water, I can tell by looking at it. Ultramarine, burnt sienna, a go-to dark, a little heavier on the burnt sienna, because these are all cool, and I want this to be a little bit warmer. So this we'll get into her, don't worry. It's coming. Let's put a little bit of that under there. A little of that under there. It's going to happen, I promise. We're going to get there. So let's put a little more blue in that mix as we go across. So it's just some variegation. That's always a good thing. Now I'm going to have a cast shadow from this woman in the hijab here. Now, there would be a bit of a cast shadow from this box too, wouldn't there? As well as this one. So I'm going to pause here and think, and I'm going to pause and look. All right, I've got a mess in here. I need to separate those umbrellas from these umbrellas. I'm going to make one of them a kind of a clean turquoise color. Is that still wet? Might be, yeah, better not do that. What can I do? What can I do? I know what I can do. Back to this reddish, grayish. Wait a minute, John, wait a minute. Yeah, okay. I need a warm ochreish gray. Let's have some yellow ochre and neutral tint. I got to get the undersides of these umbrellas, which as I do this, it's an opportunity to paint the scalloped edge that they have. And those are going to have an underside too. Same thing on this one, but not so much showing on that side. It tends to show over here. And I'm going to let that set up a little bit. Before I launch into, well, let's just do that. I'm going to do that chimney hot. This one over here too. Maybe I should do, oh, a little more burnt sienna in that. Well, thank you, Jane. It's a wood slat thing there. It's going to get a little bit more, but I wanted that to kind of be a echo or of the red stripes on her bag. Now there's some additional folds in the front edge of these umbrellas here. This is going to be dry enough now that I can go into this blue violety, some blue, some red, some water. It's runny. That's what I want. I'm going to paint through. This is the shade underneath this. Being caused by it. And there's the, yeah, so it's going to go all the way to that, all the way through her, anything in here. It's going to cover let's leave a little bit of white somewhere on her. It's going to cover all of that. I'm not going to let it hit. And then I'm going to do this little diagonal shadow there. Perhaps a shadow under that. Where else do I need that? Some of that merchandise would be, I'm going to make her dress is dark, so it could go right to that. Down to almost her feet. Oh my gosh, I forgot her shadow. She makes a lovely cast shadow. Small, tight shadow. Well, let's get what we can on her. And then it'll go darker. More of our dirty purpley blue. If it's not exactly the same as the one you just did, that's good. put some turquoise in it. Coming along here and up in there. Skipping that, whatever it is. So I am going to have to get a few more darks underneath here. But we will be doing that coming up. Yeah, there's going to have to be a strong warm dark happening up here somewhere. That's going to be damp, so I'm going to be touching in things underneath in the shade. That's going to be merchandise, but we're going to let a little bit of that dry. Now, over here, I want to suggest some deeper shade. Across the street, and let that dry. Perhaps I'll do a little bit more there. So anchor points, I'm looking for, she's going to be the ultimate. Flesh under shadow is warm, it's dark brown, and the windows. That's something we can wait on. I can tell already that this, I could have gone a lot lighter or darker maybe, perhaps with that. I'm going to put a little bit of some, oh boy. Oh, you're very welcome, Mickey. I'm going along on this one, but it's a complex. Maybe even suggest some shadows from objects elsewhere. I'm going to put some color in this. A very dark version of that. Dark greenish blackish for these windscreens. Let's make it black. Black and yellow ochre maybe. Some dark elements down there. Rear view. A door handle. Perhaps later I'll put a soft figure behind here, more merchandise, breaking these spaces up in a way that hopefully the intervals, I don't want a disco beat happening in there like that. Should be hole of some sort. I will color those umbrellas across the street later. You know what? I'm thinking not to put that olive tree in. I think maybe I want a window, or a suggestion of a window. Antennas, all of these little things that I do while I'm waiting for something else to dry. There should be a division there, a little bit of a division there, a little bit there. Oh, a lighter, more turquoisey version for the portion of the front window that is receiving more light. Maybe even a bit of headlight too. Now, I may just have to, let's get under here. Sort of a zippy green because I want it near the red that's going to be there. That's enough of that. In these dark areas, there shouldn't be anything technically light showing. I think I can go on this nice lady with a hijab. And then I'm going to make it a little warmer, more burnt sienna as we come further down into the light here. Okay, there's no more fiddling. We've got to get our key anchor point. Our girl with the red striped. There's a strap on it, which I think I'm going to not do. You'll be too busy. The stripes will be enough. So let's make sure, the safe thing to do is make sure everything is dry. So I'm going to go to mute. The other thing I'm going to do is take out any stray pencil lines that may be okay. Here we go. Here's our orangey red. Let's study this. This is one of those Shakespeare stroke things. "'Twere done, 'twere best done quickly." Now, I need that very dark for her shoulder and sleeve, and then her dress, knee coming out. Let's make it a little bluer at the bottom. Need to have a little bit of a and the burnt sienna. Where can we work? Orangey or red for her foot. And perhaps her nose. Let's give that one a hand. While we're here, let's insert some interesting merchandise. These are little anchor points. I'm trying to pull focus or draw attention around this figure here. And I can see, I need more of that red orange. There. Where else I can be? Oh, right. I was going to color those umbrellas across the street. Clean water. Let's get a bright yellow for one of them. And maybe a turquoise. That one. I guess I need to make the awning on that restaurant a little bit different so it stays across the street. And maybe some lines on the shutters. Not much. Now, the roof. A runny mix of something brown. Just a few to suggest the texture up there. More nondescript darks back here. And what I'm going to say is tree shadow. Okay, where else can I go? Where else can I go? Under that. A little bit more shadow there. I think this could use some color here, this box of whatever it is. Maybe a very, very pale brownish pink. Do need some stronger darks under here. And I think I want to pull the tape off. Oh, wait, I see something already. The curb. Broken stroke. That's, I don't know what I made there. I'll have to turn that into something after I look at it for a while. But I'm going to detape and see if that tells me anything. Yeah, I can see some stuff. Let's see. That area needs some attention. There needs to be a bit more of a dark, strong connection. I'm just squinting and I'm saying, where do I need, okay, I'm going to frame that bag a little better. Left side of that figure a little darker. That should be the tree across the way should be more of an organic shape. How about and I think I'm going to leave it at that until I've had a chance to look at it a little further. And anywho, there it is. Market day at Ile-sur-le-Sorgue. Oh, gee, look at this. There's more than one umbrella here, and one side of this is darker than the other. So, or should be. Okay, that's that. Well, oh, thank you, Jane. Does she need a red sandal? Ooh. Let's see. Yeah, I like that. Thank you. Great suggestion there. And oh, something across the street. Who knows? But anyway. Oh, you know, and I could see a little bit of variation, maybe not that much, in this area, towards the front edge of that. And perhaps maybe just a little bit of something across the street here. Well, yeah, the tree should be casting a shadow back that way. Since I made more space in here, I do need to account for it. There we go. That's it. Thank you all for tuning in. I am going to continue to the kitchen. If you're not interested in that, go ahead and tune out. But the idea of anchor points is find the ones that pull the eye, try to avoid the ones that confuse the eye, frame your anchor points, variegate them, and just because I think sometimes when we look at these things, there's so much stuff there, we kind of feel like, oh, I'm neglecting my duty if I don't put in everything that's there. We're looking at, there's like a little table leg here, and I'm just going to do a small lift. Just to break that line up. And perhaps a strong dark in here. I want to try and lead my eye to the figure. And I could clean up that hat a bit. Okay. So, thank you all for tuning in. Near the roof shadow, near the antenna. Ooh, good call. There would be one coming off the chimney pot. This one is, I think, behind, and this one is behind too. So it wouldn't be there. There could be a little bit of that. Yeah, I think that's, thank you, Jane. And there we go.